Women
empowerment
states
the need of the
I strongly believe that women have limitless potential. And so for me, women empowerment is women tapping into that potential, fearlessly doing whatever they want to do with their lives in a world that is constantly telling them
To take decisions about their physical, mental, emotional, and financial well-being.
Hi. Women empowerment, in the most simplest terms, means attaching the notion of freedom with the entity female.
That comes to my mind when we talk about women empowerment is that every woman is a superwoman and there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish.
For me, women empowerment is that women are able to make their own decisions without being vulnerable or thinking about other people's happiness.
Empowerment is our ability to dream limitlessly without having to fulfill the obligations enforced by society, to assert our freedom and liberty without being judged, and to strengthen our powers, capacities, and talents without the fear of contest.
For me, women empowerment means financial independence. A woman who doesn't have to ask anybody for money is empowered.
Women's empowerment means the abilities and the self-worth of women, that is, they can choose their own field of interests based on their choice. Even they have the right to change the society for themselves and for others. There should not be any gender inequality between men and women.
Madeleine Albright once quoted, "It took me time to develop a voice, and now that I have it, I'm not going to be silent." So when I think of these two words, women empowerment, I visualize strength, acceptance, and women just flying high and reaching the skies.
Hi. When I think of empowered women, and I know many of them, I know an empowered woman can change families, environment, and societies and have a far-reaching impact.
Self-confidence. Empowering women is the process of making women independent in all aspects of thoughts, rights, decisions, and actions. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, and may we rise.
Hello everyone. Women empowerment for me would be the ability to dream freely and dream beyond the boundaries and the stereotypes that the society sets for us, calling them norms and traditions that are to be followed. Well, and it is also the motivation with which we get up every morning and work towards that dream so that we get closer to that dream, and then someday we can achieve that dream no matter what the society says or what the society does to stop us.
Freedom to follow your dreams.
Woman empowerment is the freedom to choose. It is the ability for a woman to choose whatever she wants without being judged by the society.
Empowerment for me is feeling and being secure and appreciated in any environment.
Woman empowerment means courage. The courage to speak up, to stand for yourself.
Women empowerment, to me, will be being yourself unapologetically.
Each time a woman stands up for herself, without knowing it possibly, or without claiming it, she stands up for all the women around her. This is a quote by Maya Angelou. She's one of my favorite poets. Wishing you all a happy Women's Day. Stand up for each other, uplift each other, love each other. We're all sisters, and let's see each other grow. Once again, a happy Women's Day.
Women empowerment to me is having the right to choose and make my own decisions, where my decisions are actually respected and are not constantly criticized and questioned by the society on the grounds of this is not how a woman is supposed to behave.
The acknowledgement and recognition that we deserve.
Each time a woman stands up for herself, she unknowingly stands up for all women.
Something that comes to my mind when I hear women empowerment, it's equality for all.
Statistically speaking, women have a lot more patience, a lot more calm, and they make much better leaders. And there is nothing that women cannot do. And for me, that's what I think of when I think of women empowerment.
Hi everyone. Women empowerment for me is economic empowerment. I believe that when a woman is financially independent, it is truly then that she is empowered. So my message to all the girls out there is get up, earn that check, and get ready to live life on your own terms. Wishing you all a very happy Women's Day.
Hi everyone. The words that come to my mind when I hear women empowerment are sense of self-worth,
and the ability to have my own choices and my own opinions. Thank you.
For me, women empowerment resonates with the term humanity.
Hi, I'm Shreya, and this is Custard. For us, women empowerment means helping each other overcome the limiting roles and patterns set by the society.
That comes to my mind when I think of women empowerment would be feminism isn't about making women stronger. Women are already very strong. It's about changing the way the world perceives that strength.
You've got everything to take the world in your stride. Happy Women's Day.
Sharing one of my favorite quotes. There are those who say that fate is something beyond our command, that destiny is not our own. But I know better. Our fate lives within us. You only have to be brave enough to see it.
For me, women empowerment is increasing the strength of women socially, economically, and emotionally.
When I think of women empowerment, there are two words that come to my mind: education and confidence. Education, I believe, is central to empowerment. Confidence, on the other hand, enables people to express their opinions freely and fight for their rights.
Women empowerment for me is women making their own choices. It's not about classifying women's choices as progressive or traditional. It's just about making sure that they get to make that choice on their own.
Woman empowerment for me starts from self. So start loving yourself, being yourself, and believing yourself.
What comes to my mind when I think about women empowerment is the fight for equality and all the struggles that women have done in these years, and of course feminism.
Sending you all love and strength on this Women Empowerment Day, because an empowered woman can make another woman empowered. So write your own story, be the author of your own life. Happy Women's Day.
Women empowerment. When we hear this word, it sounds like a CEO of a company, a big, well-suited woman. Well, all I want to tell you is women empowerment is, are you confident of yourself? Do you accept yourself the way you are? And are you ready to work on yourself at every step of life? That is what women empowerment is. Are you able to take your own decisions, think for yourself? Or are you dependent on others to make you feel special, to make you happy, to take care of you? Empowerment is all about having equality, not becoming better than men, because there is no comparison. You are unique, they are unique. But are you living your life to your full potential, what you are supposed to, what you are given? Are you that strong person in your life who accepts her failures and success with same respect and love? Happy Women's Day.
So the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about women empowerment is that it is more important to empower our men so that they can handle these empowered women. The notion of empowering women would have not existed if these men were empowered enough to handle these powerful women. So therefore, empower the men.
Women's Day is the need of the hour. Equal paycheck and opportunities will really go a long way. So I believe we should make each day Women's Day, because the achievement of gender equality is everybody's responsibility.
Empowerment lies at the heart of progress and action. So this Women's Day, we would like to encourage and empower all women to realize their true potential and to continue to dauntlessly support one another.
The steps to avail the e-certificate are as follows. Attend the complete webinar. When you see thank you on the screen, there will appear a link to a Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback questionnaire emailed. Fill the questionnaire you get on mail for your details. Follow our page. Whether you did or not is also in the questionnaire. If you did and replied in affirmative and actually did not follow our page, you will not get the e-certificate. If all the above stated steps are followed, automatically an e-certificate will be issued online to you. MentorMitr is a mentoring organization. Our aim is to guide individuals wherever they are in their journey of career development and help them learn life skills to manage complex situations while enhancing their academic performance to optimal. Our involvement helps students to set the right goals and enable them to define and manage their priorities as well as enhance their EQ. Good evening, everybody. We welcome you to today's webinar on leadership journey from dependence and independence to interdependence. The session will be led by established professionals, Mr. Arjun Vaidya and Ms. Bhavika Gaur. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box and we will try to answer them. Our first speaker is Mr. Arjun Vaidya. Arjun Vaidya was the CEO at Dr. Vaidya's New Age Ayurveda until January 2021. Prior to his entrepreneurial stint, Arjun graduated from Brown University, USA with BA with honors in international relations and economics. He then worked in private equity at a consumer sector focused fund, L Capital Asia, where he focused specifically on consumer brands and consumer tech. In October 2016, Arjun quit his job to take on his 150-year-old family legacy of Ayurvedic formulations that his grandfather left behind. Dr. Vaidya's repacked the ancient Indian science of Ayurveda and emerged as India's largest Ayurveda brand online. The brand has successfully reached 1 million plus consumers across 500 plus cities and 16,500 plus pin codes in India. Arjun was the first Ayurvedic entrepreneur to be featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia List 4 and Business World 40 Under 40 list. Dr. Vaidya has also won Youth SMB of the Year from Amazon and the Retail Startup Award from the Retailers. In June 2019, Dr. Vaidya partnered with the USD 4B RP Sanjeev Goenka Group and has now been acquired by the group, making it one of India's first successful D2C exits. Outside of work, Arjun is an advisor to football-focused NGO. Just for Kicks is a World Economic Forum global shaper and a mentor at the ATL Innovation Mission. He's also a part of the All India Management Association Young Leaders Conference and a member of Brown University's Young Alumni Advisory Council. Now I would request Sir to please enlighten our audience.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Super. So thank you so much, MentorMitr, for having me, and I'm really excited to be with all of you. If my audio is unclear, please just leave a message in the chat box, and I'll sort of rejig the Wi-Fi. Thank you so much for the intro, and I'm really excited to be talking to all of you about leadership. And I think that that's something that's sort of been really important to me through my life. And so I'm going to start by talking to you about my journey through my life and how sort of leadership came in. And then about how leadership moved from dependence to independence and then eventually interdependence, or sort of working together rather than working in silos, and how that to me was the real crux and value of leadership. And then maybe some takeaways to end the conversation. So as Swasti mentioned, my name is Arjun Vaidya, and Vaidya, my last name, means Ayurvedic doctor. I come from a legacy of 150 years of Ayurveda in my family. My grandfather, great-grandfather were Ayurvedic doctors. They ran a very successful Ayurvedic clinic. My dada used to see 350 plus patients a day in his clinic, 12,000 plus patients on a monthly basis used to write to him via post. So that was sort of the background of the legacy of our family. In the late 80s, early 90s, when FMCG was being built in India, my father wanted to make a brand out of our family's Ayurveda legacy. But my grandfather was a doctor. He didn't really care for sales, distribution, marketing, or strategy. And so he didn't see the need to establish a brand. My father eventually went his own way and started a very successful business in the jewelry and watch space. But I was born in 91. I grew up with juvenile bronchitis, that's asthma. I am still a very, very big cricket fan. And when I was 7 years old, I remember very clearly my grandfather moved me off the cricket field and said there's too much dust on the cricket field. And I was one of the only kids to be playing golf and squash. I grew up with pumps, nebulizers, steroids, inhalers. I wasn't allowed to have ice cream. And I remember having Coca-Cola for the first time when I was 13 years old. Right. So asthma had a really sort of deep impact on my life. It stopped me from doing things that I really sort of wanted to do. And I think that really sort of that really impacted my childhood, right? And I think Ayurveda and my grandfather actually sort of played a role in this part of my life. My grandfather, when I was age 2, took on my asthma and sort of after 14 years of painstaking treatment, Ayurvedic treatment, my grandfather cured me of asthma. And I remember the biggest turning point for me uh, in my life, I would say, and my leadership journey was I started playing cricket again when I was 15 years old. And at age 16, I became the captain of my school cricket team. I became the captain of my school cricket team not because I was the best player in the team, but just because I was the most regular player. And I showed up to every single practice and I was there for every single sort of event and practice. And so eventually I was made the captain of my school cricket team, right? And to me, that was a big, big turning point in my leadership journey. And into this tryst with leadership. When I was uh, 17 and a half, I went to the US for my undergrad. I went to a place called Brown University. And while I was at Brown, I saw a move towards natural and organic products. I saw yoga being repackaged. I saw yoga mats, yoga pants, yoga gyms, yoga apparel, all of these things create a multi-billion-dollar industry in the US. And that got me thinking, why can't we do the same with Ayurveda? So I'm being someone who is very patriotic. I came back to India in 2013. I worked in private equity, as Swasti said earlier. I worked at a consumer sector focused private equity fund called El Capital Asia. And while I was there, I saw a big change in the Indian consumer. I saw Indian consumers excited and sort of impressed with quintessentially Indian brands. I grew up which was obsessed with imported products. I came back to an Hi Swasti, can you hear me? Sorry, I got logged off for a second.
Yes, sir.
Hey Swasti, sorry, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll just continue. I can't see the screen.
Sir, it's okay. You can continue.
Okay, I'll continue. So as I was saying, right, when I was in the US for my undergrad, I saw this move towards natural organic products. I then came to India and I saw yoga being sort of repackaged and rebranded. And I saw a change in the Indian consumer. Unfortunately, my grandfather also sort of passed in this time period, and so we had our legacy with our family. We had all of these products, and there needed to be someone sort of taking this forward. I was working in private equity at the time at a consumer sector focused fund called L Capital Asia, which is now called L Carrington. And I spent a lot of time on the Indian consumption story, on the Indian consumer. And I saw change in the Indian consumer. I saw the Indian consumer happy to consume quintessentially Indian products. I saw the Ministry of Ayush create, and I saw a renaissance towards our science of Ayurveda. And after my Dada passed, I felt a responsibility and a duty to take forward this Ayurveda journey, and to take forward what we had with India, and sort of what was what was sort of my family's legacy, right? And so in 2016, I quit my job in private equity, and I took forward my promise to my grandfather, which was to take forward our family's Ayurveda legacy in a new age format, to create a brand that made Ayurveda appealing, accessible to modern consumers. And that was the sort of premise and thought process behind Dr. Vedya's. And we took an online first strategy to give people access to Ayurvedic products and Ayurvedic treatment across the country, without going into too much of our journey at Dr. Vedya's, because this conversation is not about our journey at Dr. Vedya's, it's about leadership. Over 4 years, we emerged as India's largest Ayurveda brand online. We launched 70 plus products, engaged with more than 1.5 million customers across 16,500 pin codes and 500 plus cities in India. But I think from this, the crux of what we did was leadership in an industry where consumers' imagination needed to be captured, right? So we moved from a team of 6 people when I started in 2016, and when we exited Dr. Vedya's when I exited Dr. Vedya's and we sold the business last month to RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, we were more than 150 people, right? And so I think if I walk you through that journey, right, of going from my childhood to my college days, to eventually running a business and selling a business, I think I'll give you sort of my key leadership lessons, right? So I think when I was young, leadership was about dependence for me, right? It was about mentorship. It was about learning from the best. It was about taking on the best learnings that I could from my mentors, from my parents. My grandfather and my father both had sort of a deep impact in my life, and implementing their learnings was the first part of my leadership journey, right? And that's the part of dependence which all of us grow up with. We take these learnings from our teachers, from our mentors, from our parents, and we try to implement them and see the effect of these learnings on our life. That was the first part of sort of the leadership journey. I think the second part for me of my leadership journey was when I went to college in the US, right? And that was the first time in my life that I was out of this cocoon, out of this shell, and eventually sort of moving into the independent part of my leadership, or independent part, things out about myself and about my life. In this part of the journey, actually, it was for me a lot about self-discovery, about understanding what I'm capable of, about going out of my comfort zone, and then eventually emerging with a vision and a mission to create a brand that resonates with consumers across the country. So to becoming someone who sort of understood my personality, and understood what I was capable of, and then sort of moved to discovering what this part of the journey could take me to, and that took me to coming back to India, to working in private equity and finance, which was my first job, and from there eventually sort of being able to start my own company, and from 6 people to 150 people, take the sort of journey and mission of Ayurveda forward. I think through this journey, while there was a lot of independence in the early days of the journey, um, I think eventually the biggest learning for me, and if I was to give you my sort of two biggest leadership lessons leading towards interdependence, the first would be that, as entrepreneurs and as leaders, uh, you think initially that you can do everything on your own, but the reality is that there are only 24 hours in a day. And so as leaders, you have to work with the team, right? And so one of my biggest learnings in relation to interdependence was creating a strong team, empowering the team, and then being able to work together with this team, right? And I think the second big learning was culture, right? With interdependence and getting multiple people to work together towards the same goal, you need to have everybody with the same philosophies and thought process, right? And so at Dr. Vedya's, we had some key philosophies: hard work, honesty, humbleness, team effort, customer are reason for being. And when you want to build this interdependence of a large group of people going to a single goal, I think bringing together like minded people who believe in the same culture is really important. So, this was my sort of leadership journey over the last 29 years of my life, moving from dependence, which was what I had in sort of my growing up phase, to eventually independence, which is what I learned in my college phase and sort of implemented in my first job. And then eventually, when I started my own company and became an entrepreneur, it was about interdependence. It was about taking this larger goal and working together with a larger set of people to actually unlock the sum of parts rather than just one person. And I think that was the real value. We had 150 people working towards Ayurveda, towards the mission of Ayurveda, towards spreading Ayurveda to hundreds of thousands of consumers across this country. And I think that really is the power of interdependence. If I was to sort of end my conversation and leave you with the key learning that I have through this mission, it was that team effort is really the power of interdependence, right? And so bringing together this group of strong, like minded people in the same setup and really taking it forward, that was unlocking the power of leadership and the power of interdependence. I think that's it from what I had to say. I think the reality of the conversation and the reality of what we're trying to sort of talk about here in this discussion is moving from dependency to eventually independence, and then going towards a conversation of interdependence, and unlocking the real power of a team. And I think that was my key learning, and that was sort of the key takeaway of what this conversation that MentorMitr is trying to put in front of you, is that interdependence is really the power of leadership and unlocks the real power of a team.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your experience and valuable advice with us. Surely everyone listening was like intrigued with your journey and did get the idea of the leadership. Now we would move on. So we are delighted to announce a 7-day free trial of a program to all the users who wish to see how they can use it to enhance their immediate performance, focus on and achieve their current goals, increase their emotion quotient, learn life and other skills. So this is a 7-day free trial on the Android app for the first 1,000 consumers. Our template work on the focus areas of goal setting, time management, priority management, stress regulation, EQ enhancement, soft skills, and grooming. However, we would like to bring you to your notice that session scheduling and session template will not be available on the free trial. In order to get access for the same, you will have to purchase the program relevant to your needs and age. But the chatbot and the customer support are available on the free trial, and you can also get access to that along with the section of grades and time tracker. So this is a landing page where you can check the link and see the details which I've mentioned. To get access to the free trial, you will have to click on the header which says get your 7-day free trial and then click on yes. Once the option appears, your trial will consequently start and you will get access to our template. To the QR code. So here's the QR code which you can scan to download the app, which is free of cost. Now I would be also sharing a sample of the video of our app. Extremely sorry, there was one thing which I want to mention. Ujjwal, to the prior slide, please. Yeah, so the app is available on Play Store. You all can download the app only for now to iOS. For the Play Store, Ujjwal, the screen is not visible clearly. Wait. You can download the app only on Android for now, and iOS would be available very soon. The download is free of cost. An app is available in India, Philippines, China, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Italy, Malaysia, Nepal, Russia, Spain, and Thailand. It will be launched in other countries soon. Kindly download our app and get help in your career. If you have any queries with the app, please feel free to contact us or drop a mail at contact@mentormitr.com or connect@mentormitr.com. Ujjwal, you can close the slide. I'm presenting my video.
MentorMitr is giving away a 7-day free trial so that users can know what MentorMitr provides and how it can help them. Now, I am going to explain how you can avail the 7 days free trial on the MentorMitr Android app. Here, when you log into the app, you see an option on the top, get your 7-day free trial now. Just click on the option and you'll be asked if you are sure if you want to start the trial session. Click on yes and your trial will be started. So as a trial user, you will be able to access all the templates like questionnaire, tracks and options, sports track, college track, priorities, goals and affirmations, activities, weekly timetable, and session feedback and session scheduling are blocked for the 7 days free trial. So if you want to avail session scheduling, you have to enroll into one of our programs. Chatbot and customer support are available in the 7 days free trial. You can also track your grades and track your time tracker, and you can get the weekly reports in the 7 days free trial. You can get your grades progress. You can get a weekly stats report and all the other usages on the 7 days free trial. Hoping to see you there on the MentorMitr app. Thank you.
So our next speaker is Miss Bhavika Gaur. Bhavika Gaur is an international fitness expert and yoga therapist. She have done her graduation in yoga therapy from Bangalore, various yoga certifications under USA Alliance, yoga auditor under the Ayush Ministry of India, Pilates expert, barrel trainer under the American Ballet Institute, a motivational speaker. She owns yoga fitness studio in Dubai and Kanpur, plus an online platform providing trainings to students across globe. Her entrepreneurial journey started in 2018 after returning from Dubai, when she realized that the potential of her work and how massively it would have an impact on people when she has something of her own with the freedom to work. Since then, there's no looking back. From a shy person at school with zero confidence to speak in front of anyone, she have built her way and still doing her best to handle massive crowds with no speck of doubt and helping others to build that level of confidence and positivity in their lives. Now, I would request Pam to share her insights on the topic.
Hi everyone, I'm Bhavika Kaur and thank you Swasti for such an amazing introduction. Well, let's discuss dependence and its migration to independence and how interdependence is the win-win situation. Well, someone has rightly said, if you want to work fast and achieve your goal fast, you need to do it alone. But if you want to reach far, you need to have a team with you and build that trust accordingly. So if I'll actually start with certain examples of dependence. When you're a kid or you're a school going kid, you need a mentor. You need a mentor to guide you through every aspect of your life. You need somebody to help you move ahead and teach you the principles that you might live by in the future. But when we talk about how you develop or inculcate those activities in your life, apart from the teachings that you have actually understood, that's where the independence level starts. Independence is not just going alone and doing something of your own sort, but being dependent at certain point of time, taking those teachings, implementing those things in your life, and then moving ahead in your life. That's where the main independence starts. For example, a school kid. Teacher will teach you a lot of things. Or there's a particular subject in your school and your teacher is teaching you something about that. When you're learning about that particular subject, you are dependent upon your teacher to understand the value aspects of it. When you start implementing all those things that you have learned for your subject in your daily life, that's independence. And when you have a group task and you have to sit with a group of people to actually portray those things in the outer world, that's where interdependence starts. Interdependence, well, this entire concept is not just a valid topic, but it is based on the principle by Dr. Stephen R. Covey. He has actually explained people about the various habits or habit inculcating through these three stages, from dependence, migrating to independence, and then how interdependence is the win-win situation. When I'm actually talking about it, according to Stephen Covey, there are two kinds of victories. One is the private victory, the other one being the public victory. Private victory, you're doing something of your own, you achieve a goal that you have set up for yourself, and that's a private victory, which is necessary initially. But then, when you are moving forward in your life and you start interdepending on people, for example, I have a team, I need a team to work along with. I depend upon them to move ahead in my life, and they are dependent upon me to move ahead in their respective lives or in their respective areas. That's where interdependence starts. And you need that level of interdependence or relying on people to achieve the public victory. All right. Dependence is important to learn. Independence is important to apply those things in your life, and interdependence to reach the further future goals ahead in your life. None of us can actually win the world or win the goals or achieve our goals that we actually imply in a life by following any one of them. It's a stage. First, you are dependent, then you get independent, and then it's all about interdependence. And as I said, if you want to reach far, you have to be interdependent. But interdependence should not come at the cost of what you see around you. All of that depends upon the kind of trust, the kind of goal you have in your head, the kind of leadership quality that you have in yourself, and you want to imply it with the team around you to reach the far-fetched goal. Okay. For example, suppose if I take my own example, earlier in the stages of my life, when I started working back in 2015, when I was still doing my graduation, I was independent when it comes to my work aesthetics or when it comes to financing my entire education. When I started working, I was dependent to a mentor. I was dependent on a mentor to guide me through the work stages, how I have to work, how I have to portray or provide the task given in front of me. After a certain point of time, I no more needed that mentor to guide me ahead in my life, but rather, whatever tasks were there, I had to do it on my own self. That's when independence started. And now, when I run my own business, I need to have a team because of the far fetched goal that is already in front of me. With that team only, I'll be able to achieve the far fetched goal. I know if I work alone, I'll be able to do it fast because I don't have to explain each and every detail to each and every person out there. But in order to reach far, I need to have that team building and team trust and delegation of responsibility, which is the far more and best leadership quality that everyone should actually imply in their lives. When I talk about those qualities, you'll be able to build up a team. Don't just build a team for the sake of interdependence, but build a team when you have the confidence, when you are independent, when you feel and you have that goal way ahead of you. That's where you start with team building. With this team building, work allocation, work delegation, time implication, you start interdepending upon each other. You are interdependent upon your team to give you the work to finish up your task. Your team is interdependent upon you to mentor them. So once who was your mentor, now you are mentoring that particular team. That is the leadership quality what we are talking about over here. And that's when you start working towards the final goal that we actually talk about. With this in head, we need to actually also think about the concepts wherein what dependence is for you, what independence is for you, and what interdependence is for you. And Stephen Covey has stated it very frequently about the public victory and the private victory. Okay, team building, interdepending, and applying that all of those factors in your life is what will lead you to the far-fetched goal. As and when I'm repeating it again, because that's the goal. Team is what you need. But with the team, you also need their trust factor, you need their interdependence quality, you need to allocate the work. It's not that if you'll just have a team and you'll be able to achieve your goal. There has to be trust, there has to be time allocation. You have to work interdependently on each other as a close continuation. And that's when you'll be able to achieve the far-fetched goal. So these are the examples of dependence. It's migration to independence because once you learn about those concepts, you'll be able to imply it on your life. And how interdependence, the entire team being knitted together and working towards one goal will lead you to the far-fetched goal quickly. So this was all about it. The examples of dependence, migration, importance, and Stephen Covey's principle. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Swasti.
Now I would like to introduce our another speaker for the day who will help us with the Q&A round. Mr. Anil Sharma. Mr. Anil Sharma passionately and compassionately works with youngsters, mentoring them and coaching them, learning about them and learning from them. His learning is understanding how Gen Y and Gen Z think from observation and working with them and not from books. Anil sir has rich corporate experience in leadership positions, his background in engineering and MBA.
Hi everybody, this is Anil as introduced, and thank you Bhavika. You did a great job of explaining the concepts of dependence, independence, and interdependence. And I was speaking on a webinar like this some time before, and it was live, and Q&A session happened, and there was a 24-year-old young girl who asked me, I'm independent. I live in another city. I work here. But my parents keep calling me all the time where I am. So, and then, I realized that what we actually practice at home, in families, at organizations is what we need to always keep reminding us that, how away from dependence on one individual on other or one family on one individual, to independence of all those individuals, to how they are connected still, and they are, while they could be dependent or independent individually, collectively they are interdependent on each other, like a team, as Bhavika just said. So, I think if I have to pick some examples, I would say, a young child, a school going child thinks his parents are independent because they bring all the money in, they bring all the goods which they need. For example, their toys, maybe their stationery, their school fee, their clothes, and their gadgets. And that's why they have a say. And because they control it, and what they get is dependent on how much leverage they have on their parents, despite being dependent, depending upon their income. So this is how a child grows. This is how I grew, thinking that when you grow up, you bring sacks of money every day and you bring things. And that's how it developed that uh, even in my itsy bitsy little mind, it came how I will become independent when I grow tall, when I go 20 years, when I go to work, I will become independent. That was my concept as a young child. And when I went to school, again, there was control of school. The discipline looks very controlling. Like, you have a time to go to school, you have a uniform to go to school, our teachers will check my nails, my shoes, my teeth, and also whether my clothes are ironed or not. And if there is anything, they will write in the diary that this wasn't right. Or occasionally they'll send some kid out that their shoes were not polished and all. Or if a child was making noise in the class, they'll say they'll punish during, or they'll have a monitor to monitor them. And I think all of you as young kids would have got through that and gone through that and thought, that this person is powerful, this teacher is powerful, this father is powerful, this mother is powerful, and their parents are more powerful than them because they even control them, maybe if you lived in a joint family. So this is how my concepts were developing. And when I came to college, university, nobody was asking whether you're coming or going. There was no roll call per se. There was some criteria of attendance, but it was too large a distance to that you can bunk the classes, you can go out for a movie with friends, you can play while you should have been in the class, and that was to me freedom. And I felt it is independent. It is independence from the clutches of my school teachers and clutches of the discipline of being in a school. And I see my children maybe also had that idea as I see them growing, because they've been also waiting to grow tall, grow old, and then yeah, as parents, how you look at children is that, oh yes, you give them right values, they learn right things, they know what is right and wrong, and that's what you want to teach them, and that's the control you occupy at home. In offices, in a working environment, there is a discipline of time is changing now in COVID times, because people are working from home, people log in their cell phone and app. I also do that, and that's how you know that you're timed in and timed out. So, but by and large, the way it has been forever is that there is a discipline of going to office, and the bosses have more freedom than the younger guys. Maybe that's what I thought when I was young executive. And as I grew, I just uh, and till this time, about when I was in migrating from school to university, and from university to working professional, and I was like in my early 20s, I felt now I've become independent. And it never occurred to me that the concept of interdependence, till I actually see it working on projects. So people who do project management, they can understand that in a project there are various skills, various tasks, and different people do different tasks. and all of them are interrelated. Okay, if I take an example of a company, there is a factory where goods are produced and there is a sales team which sells those goods. The sales teams get the orders, but if the manufacturing team cannot produce it, if they can produce it but it is not of good quality, so while individually the independent people may achieve their goals, organization will not be able to generate revenue because one of the independent, actually interdependent element thought they were independent and they took a decision of not understanding it maybe or communicating effectively. So coming back to this young girl, 24 years example, and I just said that beyond the realism of dependence and independence, there exists interdependence. The parents are dependent on children always, and vice versa. And the bridge which is connecting this interdependence is communication. So if you are a young child out of the home, if say beyond the normal hours, unless you've declared you're going for a party and you're not going to come home, your parents may worry. Now, if you are a parent, you'll be worried if you don't know where your child is. One phone call is that communication bridge which tells the parent that you care and you told them. And a phone call from parent finding the child actually communicates they're worried. They just want to be reassured. And this is one example of how interdependence works. Another example of interdependence is that, if you are used to driving a car and you are the driver and you're going at 100 kilometers an hour on a highway, and then on highway there are various exits, exit 1 to 10. You may choose whichever exit to take, or you were going somewhere, or it was a holiday, you just thought, okay, let us go this side, and you took a turn left without telling anybody, just gave an indicator and moved left. You can do that. But if you are a pilot who's driving a plane, who has no idea how many planes are above him and below him, has to take the help of control room through a radar system for which the pilots are trained. So the pilot is independent as far as his skill of driving that plane is concerned, but is dependent on the radar for the direction, whether it has to take a right turn, left turn, take elevation, go to 35,000 feet, come down to 25,000 feet. There is a system for that. And that interdependence and communication between the driver and the control system makes sure hundreds and thousands of people every day travel from one part of the country to other, from one part of the world to other part of the world. And I hope I could, through this, communicate what interdependence is. Interdependence also exists through various specializations in the whole community we live in. For example, you may be very, very intelligent and you may score, I don't know, 100% marks or 90% marks in physics, for example, or engineering if you took engineering as a subject, or humanities, or if you took humanities as a subject. But if you fall sick, you need a doctor. And that doctor is an expert of the field of not engineering. He's expert on the anatomy, the physiology, and how various systems of the body function. So you need an expert. Despite that you live in a colony, you're very intelligent, you're independent if you think so, that's also fine. But if you fall sick, you become dependent on this doctor who's an expert. And I took a medical advice recently and it cured me with one dose. And I felt, oh, how important are these guys? And I was just kind of guessing what happened. And then the doctor also knows some symptoms and then he writes you tests. And then there are diagnostic experts, there are machines, equipment, and the methodology with which tests are conducted. and they exist outside the doctors many a times. For example, again, where you are a small family and then you grew and you got a big, you now become a bigger family, you want to move to a bigger house, you need somebody to make that house, you need somebody to sell that house to you. So while in society you could be the independent person of your family, your interdependence on these linkages make it a complete society, and vice versa. Maybe you are a service provider yourself. I just felt that, especially in COVID, we felt that we are all connected and we are all dependent on each other. And the biggest savers were the grocery delivery guys. In the lockdown, you could not move out of the home, and you're going to an app and ordering some grocery. You're calling a neighborhood store on phone, and these guys, they work 24 by 7 around the world. They did. I was also studying that the the search, Google search on grocery stores increased 600% between March to June, for example. Then the movie guys, howsoever good you are, you cannot entertain yourself. So you go to Netflix, and then these guys are expert. The Netflix is the streaming expert, and the guys who make the movies are the experts in those areas. So we are as an individual dependent on so many entities, and we think it's just our parents or it's just our teacher or an uncle or an aunt we have to deal with. And if we are independent from them, if we can earn money, if we can buy what we want, we can drive the car we want, if we can live in a house we can choose the girl or a boy of our choice, makes us independent. Well, yes and no both. Yes, uh, because you can make that choice, and no, because that's not the only thing which is required for carrying a very healthy, happy life in further. And why it is called a leadership journey? Because I think there is a leader hidden in everybody, and this leader grows from a child to a big person. Sometimes people grow without learning these things. Even if learning academically, learning these things, not imbibing it, not believing in those principles, and thinking they are driving the car and not the aeroplane. And Stephen Covey, in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, has talked, while you can satisfy your ego abusing somebody, you may achieve your individual goals or your functional goals in an organization. That's private victory, your individual victory. That may give you an individual satisfaction, but for a long term success, you need to engage with people, understand. So, in a team which is running a project, for example, the weakest link define the success of the project, the timelines it will take. For example, in your country, your area, if a new road is coming up, there are a lot of activities happening: acquisition of road, designing the road, laying the road. Actually, whichever area is weak, the road will get delayed by that much, will affect its quality that much. So I think this is what I had to tell you about transition from dependence to independence to interdependence. And then, as I said, the process happens when the communication starts. One seeking communication and one giving communication, and both appreciating that both are important. And so if you felt you got confused further, welcome to the leadership. The leader inside you is awakening, wanting to know more. And well, I thank MentorMitr to have got me here to do this talk briefly. It is one of my favorite topic, and I totally believe even conducting this webinar would have taken a lot of teamwork, and any glitch affects the quality to the audience. Thank you very much. This is what I have to say. I'm here for the questions if there are any.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So, sir, the question is that cooperation is indeed a key towards success. So, for what is the essence of being in a group without cooperation?
Okay, so is the question is that if you are in a group where there is not enough cooperation, right? Am I right? Is that the
Yes,
question?
sir.
Okay. Look, I mean, who understands that there is a cooperation required? If you are the one, the cooperation starts from you. Even if everybody else is hostile and is not appreciative of the need of cooperation in the group, if you are the one, do that. So you start it, and without worrying from whether the person you are cooperating with, elder to you, younger to you, offer service, offer help. Believe me, if you do it long enough, the group behavior changes and the group dynamics change. There will be a lot of people uh, who will uh, who will start replicating your behavior. Some will start appreciating your behavior, and slowly you will get more buddies, and the cooperation loop will get complete and will redefine the objectives of the group where the weight is more, which means but you need to be cooperate. You have to decide that you are the one to cooperate, and that's leadership. And it is a very uniquely found traits in competing individuals in an organization, in a family or relation, but it is most valued and very highly paid. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, ma'am, we have a question for you. So, if you could give us example about the interdependence in a business.
Okay. While running a business, be it any business, you need somebody who can handle the marketing. You need somebody who can handle the work ethics. You need somebody who can handle the digital parts of it. You need somebody to actually take the tasks and delegate those tasks. You, being a single person, being the entrepreneur, cannot do all the duties at one go. Something or the other will be left behind. Hence, you need a team you trust upon, a team that can help you build up that particular far fetched goal in front of you and work along with that team. Wherein you will be giving them ideas, you'll be giving them tasks, and they are the one who will be performing those tasks, which will lead to the far-fetched goal. That's how interdependence work in a company. So that's how the interdependence works. Because you are dependent on those people to perform the task, and they are dependent upon you to receive the tasks. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Sir, we have a question for you that how do we establish interdependence in a group? So, what would be your tips for us to achieve this level of collaboration among our members?
You're asking me, Swasti?
Yes, sir. Anil, sir.
Yeah. So I suggest you take names because so how do we establish cooperation, right? In a group. That's what you're saying.
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat, please?
Yes, sir. Surely. Just a second. How do we establish interdependence in a group? What would be your tips for us to achieve this level of collaboration among our members?
Okay, I think it is more or less in line with the first question I answered. That if you have realized this need that a cooperation is required, first is to establish the right goal in a team. What are you after? Like Bhavika said, if entrepreneur is running the driving the business, the entrepreneur defines those goals first for himself herself, then organization which is created from that ambition, and then to that person. So if it is a work for it, if it is a project and there is a team, the team has a project to be defined. Even in a laboratory project which you do in university or a school, the outcome is defined. What do you want to achieve? You want to create this attachment for a particular machine in an engineering college. You want to do titration for finding arsenic or sulfur in this, and three people are working on this project, and so how do you know that you are on right path? Then okay, this is the goal, this is where we are, we have to go there, defining those paths and who will do what. So first defining the objective, laying down the path, the time will it take, who will do what, and what if this fails, what if that, putting those things in uh, if we put that, okay, and then start thinking possibility, thinking of what could go wrong and how to fix it. if we do this and jot it down, everybody in the team can start realizing clearly that they cannot do it alone. So they will need help of somebody to do a particular task. And I think defining clearly achievable objectives, laying down the path, and defining individual responsibilities in a team environment creates collaboration, and then periodic review of those tasks, whether they're happening on time or not, or who's lacking, and then can we help him, or if there is a behavior which is not acceptable, is enough done to communicate that it is not acceptable by the rest. And if there are more people collaborating, more people reviewing, very soon the results start coming, and the cooperation, the result of that cooperation is visible to everybody. Then in that common goal, everybody starts seeing their together victory of a team rather than the individual victory or private victory as Stephen Covey defines. I hope that answers, Swasti.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Any other question?
Yes, sir. One question for Bhavika, ma'am. Ma'am, how does interdependence affect the well-being of people?
Until unless you don't have a set of goal in front of you, until unless you don't have anything which is predefined for your own self, interdependence will never work. First, you need to realize it for your own self and then delegate. Being an entrepreneur, for example, if I take the example of an entrepreneur, until unless I don't have a goal set up for myself and for the business that I want to run, and I don't delegate a team for that, interdependence will never work. And as entrepreneurs are called as job providers, until unless we don't have a team, we are definitely not providing any kind of a job. With that team working effectively well, there's a good communication, there's good leadership, and the job that we are providing to others will be taken into efficiency. Taking any other example, like a parent and a child. Till a certain point of time, a child is dependent upon the parent. After that time, when the child learns all the things that he has to, that he's supposed to from the parent, the child starts implying all of that in his personal life. After a certain age, when the child grows up, becomes an adult, the child is dependent upon the parent or interdependent upon the parent to cater to their needs, and the parents are also dependent upon the child. Hence, this interdependence, by taking the example of a company, of an entrepreneurship life, or the private life in itself, is valuable and takes people further ahead in their life. Because I cannot work effectively well if I don't have my team around whom I trust, and my team cannot work effectively well until unless I don't delegate duties to them, I don't communicate things to them. So hence interdependence with good communication skill, as Mr. Anil said, good communication skills, understanding the goal, and keeping the goal into the head and implying it on each and every person, it helps in achieving the realistic achievements. I hope that summarizes.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Now we have one last question for sir. Mr. Anil.
Yeah.
Sir, could you just advise to the leaders or mentors to be more independent and interdependent during pandemic? And they've like said to like Filipinos, but I think you can just generally give us some advice to be more independent and interdependent during pandemic to the leaders.
Okay. So leaders have an additional responsibility. So what nobody in a group figures out, a leader has to figure out. And so leaders rather need to be okay in one person, problem solvers, decision makers at times, facilitating decision due to advice on other, doing the diagnostics of the problems, and also encourage teamwork in an environment. So I think, and if you think that it is difficult, that's beginning of leadership, and that's if you start applying your mind to how to kind of do from simple tasks to complex. For example, a journey of a school child is from getting up to going to school to coming back, taking rest, sleeping, playing, doing homework, going back again. So it looks simple that way. The individually might think it is very complex, while for a leader in a corporate or an entrepreneur or a leader on a sports field, the situation becomes more dynamic. Even in a football match, for example, you made a plan and opposition checked up, the leaders have to respond. In pandemic, what has happened is that there is a lot of fun. Thankfully, around the world, there is a lot of leadership emerged. A lot of this leadership, we may criticize politicians, we may criticize people of governments. I think a lot of governments and a lot of politicians also took some decision, which in some cases is in the hindsight look right and some look wrong. But leadership is not in the hindsight. Leadership is when you take the decision. So a lot of leadership globally of governments and political commitment has emerged, and we should not undermine that, howsoever negative or positive we think about politicians. Second, healthcare workers. Uh, and I think what one thing which all these behaviors indicate is what creates this culture, or what created this support system for around the world, that we are now almost at the other end of the pandemic, is thinking beyond yourself. As long as people keep thinking about themselves and inward, they don't, their mind does not expand, their heart does not expand. So I think the most important tip is, I think I did speak it once before, that you think beyond. Two, need to be grateful that the whole pandemic has gone and all of us are talking or watching or listening, so we are alive. In the first place, there are, I think, 2.5 million people, 3 million people around the world who could not survive this. Even if any of you or your families or somebody got infected and they're cured, be grateful that it happened. Be grateful that you have food to eat. You have luxury of attending a webinar if you are in this webinar, which means that you are already evolved beyond the food, shelter, and survival needs. And I think thinking beyond yourself and being grateful for what we have and not thinking of what we don't is the beginning of the process. And then you will see a lot of areas to help people. It could be picking a phone and asking an elder how are they, checking on some neighbors, people in need, if you can really help, whichever way. So I think if we talk leadership generally is beyond yourself, but particularly in an environment like this, having a service leadership, a servant leadership where people think about serving others is a prerequisite in an environment like this. Because hundreds and thousands and millions of healthcare workers, grocery workers, the courier boys took that leadership into their hand from their bike, we are all safe and we are able to talk like this. I think this pretty much should answer what you asked, Swasti. And I appreciate that I got this kind of time and we could talk like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And Bhavika ma'am for addressing the questions. It was an insightful session and we are very thankful for your presence. Now we would like to present to you our programs for working professionals. MentorMitr's spirit and endeavor is to engage with the working people and help them improve their current performance, enhance motivational level, help them plan their short-term goals and long-term goals, enhance their EQ, and help them have better control over work-life balance and eventually success. We provide you with the Compass Pro course, a 1-month engagement program for 75 USD, and Habit Forming Pro course, a 3-month engagement program for 150 USD. We also have program for school students. These programs are designed to ensure that all integral focus area in a student's career development journey are met and also help them be successful in habit formation for optimization of their performance in the immediate future by scientific and continuous self-evaluation. We provide you with the Compass course for direction setting, a 1 month engagement program for 75 USD, a habit formation course for success, a 3 month engagement program for 150 USD, and Ensure Optimizer course for 12-month program for 700 USD. Now we have program for university students. These are designed to identify their tracks for the future, whether they want to work and grow in the field of study or interest or both. Our digital program will help you to make informed choices that are duly evaluated, know your options clearly, and optimize your effects to achieve your long term and short term goals. We provide you the Compass course for direction setting, a 1 month engagement program for 75 USD, and a habit formation course for success, a 3 month engagement program for 150 USD. You will get features and benefits like counseling session with our mentors, psychometric assessment, real-time periodic counseling sessions, tracker for time management, grades, career choices, EQ grooming modules, SWOT analysis, 24/7 chatbot access, performance tracking reports, free access to webinars, videos, and blogs. Now, lastly, I would repeat myself for the steps to avail the e-certificate. Now you've attended the full webinar. When you see thank you on the screen, there will appear a link to a Google attendance form in the chat box. Click to mark your attendance and get the feedback questionnaire emailed. Fill the questionnaire, you get on mail for your details. Follow our page, whether you did or not, it is also in the questionnaire. If you did and replied in affirmative and actually did not follow our page, you will not get the e-certificate. If all the above stated steps are followed, automatically an e-certificate will issued online to you. You can contact us through any of the above mentioned platforms with your question, feedbacks, and suggestions. Thank you so much.